Welcome to the Metaphysics Hour. I am your host, Roy Colgan. Let's see if this opportunity can be enlightening for both of us. I was at a concert recently and somebody commented on my hair, and when we were talking, she asked me about when I had long hair, did I have a lot of pride in the length and the style and just the overall character of it? And I said, no, I'm not really a prideful person. I did appreciate it. And I could tell that kind of threw her off kilter, because we in this society tolerate pride as if it is a positive attribute. And what I have learned over the years and through my own experience is that pride is still toxic. Pride is no different, well, it is different than shame, than guilt, than anger, or fear, but it still is a toxic form of being. So I choose to think of pride in the same way that I think of shame, guilt, fear, anger, things of that nature, that it's necessary, but it's not a place to strive for. Like, you don't want to say, I'm proud of myself today, and then stop right there. You want to say, okay, I feel a little bit of pride right now. How can I neutralize this pride? How can I get to a point of greater intelligence and understanding? And so I'm going to read to you from a book that I originally learned about pride and why pride was actually toxic. And it's called Power versus Force by the late David Hawkins. Excellent book, highly recommend it. This is in page 83. The problem, as we know, is that pride goes before a fall. Pride is a defensive and vulnerable because it's dependent upon external conditions, without which it can suddenly revert to a lower level. So you see, the point of pride is an external energy. It's an energy that is not helpful in the sense that it is vulnerable, it is weak. It is a position that constantly needs to be reinforced or defended. It's like building a house out of a material that every day you have to reposition. As opposed to building it with a solid foundation, you have to wake up every morning and move things around so it doesn't collapse on you. And well, as you would think in that particular analogy, eventually you don't get to it in time and parts of it collapse. And that's what he's talking about, where your energy may start at pride and you feel quote unquote good, but it can very easily revert to a lower energy field. This is in part due to the fact that you are looking externally, that you're not taking a moment to go deeper within yourself and to find where you can actually have some security and self-respect and self-value that's not necessarily dependent upon these circumstances. It might be enhanced by these circumstances, but it's not dependent upon these circumstances. So let me continue on reading a little bit more about this particular quality and why it's important for us to avoid pride. Pride is diverse and gives rise to factionalism, and the consequences are costly. Anybody else just think of professional sports? Well, let's read on. Man has habitually died for pride. Armies still regularly slaughter each other for that aspect of called nationalism. Religious wars, political terrorism, and zealotry, the ghastly history of the Middle East and Central Europe, these are the price of pride, all of which society pays. The downside of pride is arrogance and denial. These characteristics block growth. You see that? Arrogance and denial. So these are downsides of pride. So like when you're feeling good, I'm like, wow, I'm proud of myself. an example, I haven't masturbated in a week. I'm proud of myself, right? I don't say that. I don't experience pride. I feel in that particular instance grateful that I am choosing to spend my time and energy differently. So I feel gratitude. There's no external validation that I need from anybody, and I can share this with you because I don't have shame about it. Sometimes I masturbate a lot, sometimes I don't. The point is, I am making a choice in the present moment in 2016 to be different with how I let my sexual energy express. Instead of just needing to release it when I feel like I need to release it, I'm doing something different. That doesn't fill me with pride, it doesn't fill me with shame. neither of those are my motivating factor. I'm not afraid of what people will think. I'm not ashamed of what people will think. I'm not prideful about what I want people to think of me. I understand what I am doing. So I'm vibrating on a different level. This is something that's not externally motivated. It's an internally motivated idea and thought form. Sure, it has external stimuluses, but they're not the essence of why I am acting. So when you think of pride, you might think of feel good, but that feel good is very vulnerable. It's very sensitive to criticism. And to be happy, to be truly happy, we can't be sensitive to criticism to the same degree that pride allows. Pride is just such a gross form of happiness. You know, it's very dense and it's very unsophisticated in the sense that it can very quickly, as David was saying in this book, it can very quickly revert back to anger and frustration, where you get to this point where it's like, I will defend my honor to the death or something like that. And back in the day, people would literally shoot at each other, and they would stand and they would turn around and point a gun at each other and shoot. And if one of them died, then one of them died. But they were at least gentlemen in how they fought. See, that's a prideful way of thinking. It's not an intelligent way of thinking. There's so much more to existence than pride. So I think most of us understand that shame, guilt, fear, anger, these are unhealthy places for us to be. But when we think about frustration, we come to this point where we have to understand that pride isn't going to help us get where we want to be. So think of pride as a toxic place, and instead move your attention out of pride, out of validation from the environment, and have internal validation, self-respect, self-understanding, intelligence. Those sorts of qualities can lend themselves to your growth towards what could be called self-love, and therefore love of others. This is Rory Colgan from the Metaphysics Hour, wishing you well and wishing you to move beyond pride, because pride is only a toxic form of love and it needs to be transformed into a higher form. So move beyond pride. Talk to you soon.